Thank you very much, John. We'll now move on to our second panelist before we delve into our discussion. So I'd like at this moment to introduce Lena Olsson, who's coming to us from Sweden. Lena is an experienced school manager, an international baccalaureate coordinator, international examiner, and high school teacher from Sweden, and she's the founder of Global Svenska Plus. Before moving to France in 2014, Lena was head of the International Baccalaureate Department at a well-known international high school in Sweden. She has a certificate of school management and leadership from Harvard University, as well as a Swedish Master of Education in Swedish and English literature. Lena is a true lifelong learner who leads professional development workshops in Europe every year. Moreover, she is a curious member of the Principals Network at Harvard Graduate School of Education. Please welcome Lena Olsson.
Hello, everybody. My name is Lena Olsson. I'm founder of Global Svenska Plus, which is an online school providing mainly Swedish high school students living abroad learning solutions as they need to keep their mother tongue on a high level to be able to go back to the Swedish school system. I would like to start with thanking you for inviting me to take part of this conference. I look very much forward to being involved in the discussion after this presentation as well. I live in France, but was born and raised in Sweden, a 10 million democracy, 10 million people democracy by the Arctic Circle. Sweden is a rich country with a high standard of living and a good education system, which is free for all people living in the country, as well as for the members of the European Union. Moreover, it's the third most innovative country in the world after Switzerland and the United States. Sweden ranks among the highest for telephone and internet access penetration, which is also evident in the school system. Digital tools are in daily use in home and in school, and the national curriculum states that children should be exposed to them already in preschool. In education, there is a pre and a post COVID-19. Most teachers and high school students used computers as an instrument for writing texts and showing pictures, but now it became the most important tool for teaching. Teachers were forced to adapt to this situation very rapidly, as lesson design and assessment are very different in online teaching. Teachers had now had to use their voices and body language in a different way to engage students, and they also realized that the digital classroom requires different structure and a different leadership. Soon, however, most teachers realized that the most important thing for successful education continued, as always, to be knowledge in the subject taught, well-structured lessons, clear communication, and of course, a true interest of young people's lives and well-being. I had, as an independent educator, spent 5 years developing online teaching when COVID-19 changed the world, and my teachers and students were therefore quite well prepared to go fully online compared to most colleagues and peers. People around the world therefore turned to me for support. And as I had already created online workshops for Swedish teachers working for me, I could quite easily adapt to some of this, adapt some of my material into short get started sessions. And the links to these Zoom workshops spread rapidly, in hundreds of teachers attended already in the first week. The second week of the school closure, Global Svenska Plus was added as a professional development provider to a new site created by the Swedish state to support schools in handling the consequences of the pandemic in Sweden. It was great to be able to help, but I couldn't spend more than a few weeks on giving free professional education to Swedish teachers. I had to focus on my own teachers around the world and of course our students. We were impacted by the virus just like everybody else, even if our students were used to being taught via Zoom by their Swedish teachers. They were not used to staying at home day and night. When the borders closed, many were separated from their loved ones in Sweden or elsewhere for a very long time. And this, of course, had a bad impact on their well-being and learning. In a stable world, where war, natural disasters, or other catastrophic scenarios are quite unlikely, experience and quantitative analytical data is often enough to make good decisions for the future. Sadly, that world is not ours. Global warming is a factor. We just came out of the world pandemic and there is a war going on in Europe right now. I therefore think it is our duty to use the lessons learned during the pandemic to create scenarios that will help when planning for educational reforms. Remote teaching and learning online is one ingredient, but it requires good digital infrastructure such as fast internet connections and of course electricity. Access to electricity can be a huge problem in the future. Therefore, I think that a modern education system should prepare its students practically as well. In fact, all citizens should learn basic disaster preparedness, not only by theory. Buying batteries and solar panels might be a good thing, but by learning how people survived 150 years ago, or even when you know this, you are even better prepared in, for instance, the case of a natural disaster that has an impact on roads and buildings for a long time. Maybe all schools should teach students how to build simple dynamo generators and how to deal with shortages of clean water. Maybe the curriculum doesn't need rubrics on how to snare and cook a bird or a rabbit, but in some aspects, I think that we need to give more room for practical knowledge and vocational training when planning for a future school system, because we need more tools on hand to meet the changes of a changing world, and that they could be found in the history as well as in the future. Curricular and pedagogical change like that would of course have an impact on the teacher training and professional development programs as well. But most of all, it would have to be built on a mindset that makes us all being more confident to change the way we think and work to adapt to current situations. Teachers must not only be knowledgeable and flexible in this future, but ready to lead change. But as I said earlier, we must not change too much. I believe that traditional teaching in school, combined with well-structured synchronous online teaching like Zoom teaching and a holistic approach to integrating technology could be key ingredients for tomorrow's successful school. If it's set in a society with a robust social security net, it will encourage students to be the curious inventors that society needs. In a perfect future, education should moreover be accessible and free, not only for children and teenagers, but also for adults who need to meet new challenges with new knowledge. I think that access to and production of good online teaching can and should be a tool to ensure quality in the future, irrespective of geographic and socio-economic factors. I also believe that societies and school systems that are well prepared for rapid change are more successful. In the future, countries, irrespective of size and location, might even come to treat education as an export in a manner similar to how I export Swedish from France. Provided there is internet and electricity, remote teaching, by, for instance, my model, means the location will not limit the quality of education. It will instead open new doors. So, I am doing this, even though I'm not at all an engineer or an IT expert. I'm a school manager and a high school teacher of literature. I do not often use YouTube or Instagram even. Like most teachers of Sweden, I have had the chance to develop my professional skills in different state-funded programs, but I have nothing special in that. So why did I start teaching online? The main reason is that my family moved to Nice in France in 2014. I'd left my job as head of the IB department at a big secondary school in Sweden. I was, to be honest, a bit bored in the sun on this terrace. When living abroad, I found that families in expat communities, as well as families working for the UN, World Bank, Foreign Ministry of Affairs, etc., they often move. And especially for teenagers in their high school years, this is a problem, as students who want to go back to Swedish educational system need Swedish language skills as well as good grades to be admitted. As I am raised a problem solver, I decided to try teaching using Skype, which is a Swedish invention, by the way, and was surprised how well it worked. 1 year later, I founded Global Svenska Plus, and I was lucky and had no problems attracting Swedish teachers to follow me on my new path of teaching, and the parents and the students were very positive too. Today, we have students at more than 60 international schools in 32 countries and 14 time zones. Our Swedish mother tongue program recently became partly state-funded, and as more than 700,000 Swedish citizens live abroad, the demand for our courses will probably continue to increase. My company was founded because I changed the way I had worked for many years to solve a problem in a situation that I had never experienced before. In a way, my journey can be seen as a product of what I try to describe as an educator for the future. Then is it something in my background as a Swedish educator that made me do this? I don't think so, really. The Swedish history of education is not different from other European countries. The curriculum is almost the same, but there is somehow an innovative mindset in Sweden, as we have so many inventors, as there are so many things coming from this small country. And I believe that we can find some clues in this subject, the crafts. It's a compulsory subject, and we have this together with home and consumer studies. This has been a part of the school system from the beginning. Everybody who has finished Swedish school has been taught how to cook, clean, wash, at least on a basic level. And they also know some carpentry, and they can make a t-shirt, they can do simple bicycle repair. In my opinion, the practical and aesthetic elements of Swedish schooling has helped people to be more creative and independent. And it is an holistic approach to education that foster individuals who are used to solve problems and to, in a way, manage themselves. Another very important part of the Swedish school system in fostering independent thinkers and lifelong learners is the idea that each pupil should, I quote, develop increasingly greater responsibility for their studies and develop the ability to assess their own results and relate these and the assessments of others to their own achievements and circumstances. One way of doing this in practice is student-led conferences and performance reviews instead of parent-teacher conferences. The idea behind this is found in the 1994 curriculum as a tool for learning. And today, most of these meetings takes place online, but emphasis is still on reflecting on the next step in learning and setting knowledge goals. And the meetings are normally based on a template from school in which the student, together with his or her parents, have prepared questions that they can use when the student lead this conversation about performance, goals, and difficulties, and also, of course, strengths and weaknesses. And to be able to do this, you must reflect on your own learning. To finish the meeting and the conversation, you set new goals for what the student want to develop. I attended Swedish school in the 1970s and 80s and became a high school teacher in the same system in 1990s. I loved the Swedish school system, but left it almost 15 years ago to work with the International Baccalaureate Diploma Program. As many other countries, Sweden was impacted by new public management. And one of the things I disliked in the new system was the idea that students in secondary school should have final grades after each course of study. And to be able to give fair grades, the students had to sit national tests in several subjects every year and semester. It was very time consuming, and valuable time that could have been used to plan good and interesting teaching was used for test preparation, marking, and administration. My idea of teaching using why and how questions was changed for what and when, as it is much easier to mark, grade, and give feedback on tests and papers asking questions like that. The IB system is quite different. It has, of course, tests too, but the final grades are set in the last semester, and you do it through final exams, which are marked externally by professional examiners. In my opinion, this is a better way of working together with the tutor, with the students, because in a system like that, the teacher is more of a knowledge provider and less of a judge. I know that Sweden are now going back to a system more like the IB system and more like the system we had before. And again, we can see that going back can sometimes be the same as moving forward to a better future. My own journey from being a traditional language teacher and school manager to become a modern educator started long before COVID, as you can understand. It is the results of a mindset taught by the Swedish education system, democracy, my parents, ABBA, Pippi Longstocking, and also today inexpensive and good childcare and a tax system that does not hinder but rather encourage married women to work is another important factor. And of course, an important factor is grit, but that's another story. Thank you.